aber sie da solche, wo sie vermachen die Konverten mit seinen Tränen. They seal the envelope with their tears. Wie kann ich öffnen mit der Maschine, was Ayid hat vermacht mit seinen Tränen? How can I seal, how can I open with a machine that which a Jew sealed with his tears? In other words, if I open it with my hand, I can embrace the tear. If I open it with a machine, the electric machine is indifferent to a tear. In many ways, I would say as follows. The uniqueness of Bein-Ish or Bein-Achiv is that it does not open up with a machine that which a Jew sealed and experiences with his tears. They say that the Heilige Chernobyl Magid once fell very ill. He almost passed away. He recovered and he made a Suda Seidah. By the Suda Seidah, he said as follows. For months, he hasn't had a chazoin, a vision of his father, the Heilige Reb Nachum Chernobyl, the Moir Yinayim. He hadn't seen it. Reb Nachum passed away years earlier. Yud Aleph Cheshvan, Tov Kuf Nun Ches, I think, the Moir Yinayim passed away. So the other Chernobyl Yidden was kind of abyssal. Also he dacht sich mir, the Chernobyl Magid succeeded his father. And he said, for months he hasn't seen his father. He was used to seeing his father, having a vision of his father. In Gan Eden, he hasn't seen his father. He fell ill, and his neshama went up, and he saw his father. So he asked him, he said, Tate, why haven't you come visited me recently from Olam HaEmes? So his father said, probably you did something, and I couldn't come see you. Probably my neshama couldn't come see you. So he says, what are you talking about? He says, the Manzich, did you hurt another Jew recently? So the Chernobyl Magid says, no, I didn't. He says, think about it. Did you? He says, no, I try to help every person who comes. So he says, every Jew who came recently you helped? He said, yeah. He says, what if you can't help? He says, then I don't help. He says, what do you do? He says, well, recently a Jew came to me, he had a big ace tzara. And I couldn't help him, I didn't have what to do. So Reb Nachum says, my Yizun, what did you tell him? I told him, I tried to give him chizuk. So I told him the pasuk from Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei. Ki eis asher ye'av Hashem yechiach. Somebody who Hashem loves, yechiach, he rebukes him, he punishes him, he elevates him, he refines him, because he loves him, he loves him. That's what I told him. God loves you. Reb Nachum Chernobyl said, aha, that's what it was. He says, I told him a pasuk. What's wrong? He says, that's why I didn't come to you. I knew there was something off. He said, what's wrong? He says, Lamed is Zogin, wie mit teitsch der pasuk in Gan Eden. Lamed is Zogin, wie mit teitsch der pasuk in Gan Eden. And he said, Azoi teitsch men in Gan Eden. Ki as asher yehav, amohat liba Yidin, Hashem yoichiach. Git men teuchiche, Kevayachos the Bein-Ish. As Hashem Yehav, when you love a Jew, Hashem Yoichiach. You go to Hashem and you say, Was tust du? Was tust du tzaz Ayid? Azay Teichman in Gan Eden, he said. That's what Reb Nachum Chernobyl told the Chernobyl Magid. I find something very strange today. I go to a lot of events. I'm sometimes a little too blunt. And I find that rabbis, Rosh Yeshivas, Mashgichim, Mechanchim, Magidim, self-declared Magidim, always know why certain people are suffering. You ever hear? They get up by Levias, they usually blame the women. It's always the women. Amaisim and Sneers, they know exactly. I asked her off. Your name is Yeshaya Navi, Yirmiyah Navi, Yecheskel Navi. Maybe it's you. Why are you always blaming the women? The women they don't allow to speak, so they can't defend themselves. They're sitting on the other side. For 2 hours they're bashing the women. What a chutzpah. How disgusting. The women are raising their kids. The atmosphere is nefesh for them and their families. And every tragedy they blame the women. What a disgusting thing to do. Chas v'sholom, to blame the men. Some people are narcissistic kugelfresser. Their whole God is reduced to kugel and narcissism, and they're busy blaming women. First of all, how do you know? And why are you always blaming women? I never understood this. Shine! Okay. So what happens here? So I want to tell you, at the first Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv, I was Shabbos by Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv for Shabbos. You remember when I was there? We had the Hoyv and the Shabbos together. And there were a lot of people. It was in Stamford, Connecticut, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And a woman, a woman and her husband come over to me Friday night. And she says, with her husband, I want to tell you a story. Now, I wouldn't tell this story, but they told me the story. They have a struggle. They're struggling with a difficult situation. I don't have to get into it at the moment. And she says to me, oh, people always have solutions. You know those people? From me, you know these people? They always have solutions. I tell you what to do. And they always have zgulas. They know zgulas. Zgilas. You know what zgilas are, yeah? Okay. You give money to this one, whatever. So she tells me on my, it was once a Yid who had a farm, and he had a lot of chickens. One morning he wakes up, and he sees 100 chickens are dead. He heard a big mekubal came to town. So he runs, he says, I need a segula for the chickens. The man says, give libin chaluptzis from Shabbos. He says, yeah. Give the rest of the chickens chaluptzis. You know what chaluptzis, yeah? Huh? Stuffed cabbage. The Hungarians think it's good. So she gives the chickens chaluptzis. It's taka good. Okay. The next morning, another 100 chickens are dead. He runs back to the mekubal. He says, Yerushalmi kugel is give libin from Shabbos? Yeah. Give it to the chickens. The next morning, another 100 chickens dead. No, another zgula. So give libin babka, give it to the chickens. Azoi, she's giving every morning, he's giving every night more food to the chickens. The next day, more chickens are dead. 400 chickens died. Comes running to the mekubal, he says, so give libin mer zgulas. Do you have any other zgulas? Because they're all dying. He says, how's it chaim? Zgulas habe chasach. The shaila is with chickens. I have plenty zgulas. The question is, how many chickens do you have? You understand? It's very easy for people to become experts on other people's tzaras. Until Chalila becomes personal. There was a Yid, his name was Bein-Ish. He was the Rav in Varsha. He was also a Gvir. He used to export wood from Poland to Western Europe, France and Germany. And the supply was always less than the demand. So he borrowed money, he invested, he bought off forests from Russia. Russia has endless forests. He leased 3 boats and he sent the lumber through the Black Sea to Western Europe. Unfortunately, the ships went down, he lost all the wood. Everything lost, gone. The news comes back to the city, somebody has to tell the Rosh Yeshiva. He had a yeshiva, he had a lot of talmidim, he supported everybody, didn't have to fundraise. I'm a chayim. No dinners, no banquets, no chniffa, garnish. So now, the news comes back, they appoint the bacher from yeshiva, the best bacher, to tell him the news. So he comes into his house, says, yeah, mein Sohn, Rebbe, ich will fragen a Shaila. Frag, what's the Shaila? The Gemara, a mission in Brachas, Daf Nun Dalet, Chayev Adam levarech al hara, k'shaim shem levarech al hatova. You're obligated to thank Hashem for bad things, like you're obligated to thank Him for good things. Rebbe, he says, how does that work? How could you thank Hashem for bad like you thank for good? Without skipping a heart's beat, you know, rabbis have answers like this. Yeah, today it's Google, it used to be Rabban, like this. Somebody asked me if Google is a zocher or a nekeva, a man or a woman. So it's pshita, a woman. Before you finish the sentence, she already has 100 sources. So he comes to the Rabbi and he says, how do you expect levarech al hara? So the Bein-Ish says, what's the problem? He says, Ayid gleibtach as alles kommt von Eberstein. Ayid gleibtach as the Eberstein is good. 2 + 2 = 4. Everything comes from the Bein-Ish. The Bein-Ish is good. It means everything is good. What's the problem? Says Rabbi, come on. Some things are lousy. Says, listen, emotionally you may have a problem, but intellectually you have to understand everything in this world comes from Hashem. The smallest thing comes from the Bein-Ish. And Hashem is good. Everything is good. You may not see it, you may not feel it, you may not understand it. It may take 10 years, 100 years, 500 years, maybe in Olam Haba, but it's good. Says Rebbe, let me give a hypothetical example. Somebody comes to you and says all your boats went down and you lost all your wood. Now you owe millions of rubles to the Russian government for the rest of your life. It's like a Jacobson, on Rosh Yeshiva, it's all over. The game is over. Right? What should you do? I should say, Hoidu Hashem ki toiv ki le'olam chazdoi. This really? Avada? Hashem is good. Hashem does everything. It's good. He says, Rebbe, last week I saw you dancing at your daughter's wedding. Should you dance if you hear this news? He says, Avada, I should dance. Comes from Hashem. Hashem is good. It's a simcha. I should dance. He says, Rebbe, hey, bon tanzen. Rebbe, start dancing. You know what happened? He fainted. At Klugemen, she understood. At Avegechalish, he fainted. His student revived him with cold water. He wakes up. You know what his first words were? He said, jetzt verstehe ich euch nicht the Mishnah. Now I also don't understand the Mishnah. How important this is in today's world. I want to tell you something. I once finished a lecture about pain. A woman came over to me and she told me something I'll never forget. She said her son was diagnosed with cancer. He was 4 years old. I don't have to tell you that the suffering of a child is unique in the pain. Any person suffering. When you look at a child, and there just seems to be no justification for it. Somebody once wrote, Nikmas Yeled Hakotin Oid Loy Bara Hasotin. Even Satan couldn't create yet the revenge for the blood of a little child. It's a ice the hearts. It tears out a heart. 4-year-old boy. She told this to me. She said a few weeks afterwards he was in the hospital. He turned to his mother and he says, Ma, why me? She told me these words, Rabbi Jacobson, I was an idiot at the time. She tells me, I was an idiot. So I tell him, my son, probably you sinned in a previous Gilgal. And you're fixing it in this one. She says he didn't answer me, but his eyes turned away from me. And I knew that I failed my boy. He just didn't speak about it again. He didn't even argue, he just moved away. A year and a half later, he was still suffering. He was almost 6. He asked me again, Mother, why me? I thought, she says, I was much smarter. So I look at my son and I say, because you're a tzaddik and Hashem tests tzaddikim. She tells me his eyes moved away. I knew I failed. He went into remission. And 4 years later, the disease attacked him again with a vengeance. He was now 11 years old, almost 12. They were in the hospital. He was very sick. She tells me for the 3rd time in his life, he looks at me and he says, Mother, why did this happen to me? And she says, now, after so many years, I was a little smarter. So she tells me I took the hand of my son and I rubbed it in my hand and I said, my son, my Zunala, I don't know. I don't know why you. I don't know. And she said, and his eyes stayed fixed on me. Our eyes clicked. We bonded. 2 weeks later, he passed away. So I looked at her and I said, I played a little dumb. I said, what was the difference? I'm sorry, but explain to me what was the difference. I wanted to hear how she described it. She said the difference was, the first time I was a moron. The second time I was an idiot. The third time, I validated the dignity of his pain. I didn't minimize. I didn't put it in context. I didn't feel I have to be the Saneger the lawyer, the Oirich Din of God. Hashem has enough self-confidence. Don't worry about it. I'm sitting the other day at a Shiva house. Somebody lost a child. Forgive me, I didn't understand. Every person sits down and they start preaching to the father that he shouldn't lose his amunah. Du idiot. Du fed. I don't understand you. And he starts explaining to him. At some point, the father got up and he said, I had enough of these Weltnudniks. One guy started to give him a drasha in amunah, and the father turns to him and he says, listen, it's enough. So the guy turns to me, he says, no, lama endikin. He came to give a drasha. The guy wasn't ready to listen, so I had to be the carbon. I said to the Yid, you don't pay me, I'm not on your payroll to listen to your drasha, so you can go to your shviga and give her the drasha. Zaynig isn't, he couldn't understand, he came to give a drasha. Are people out of their mind? You're here for yourself, or you're here for the other person? This is a very strange phenomenon. The mother tells me what my son needed was not explanations. Was weißt du about other people's pain? What do you know about people's pain? What do you know about people's tears? What do you know about people's suffering? Be present. Be emotionally present. Look them in the eyes and give them the dignity they deserve and be there. Don't run. Don't blink. Don't express your own insecurity or cowardice. Just be present. And if you need anything greater than that, any greater proof, it was the words that Hashem told Moshe when he said, Asura Nove'ere, Madua lo yivra asneh. The Medrash Rabbi says the sneh burning represented Klal Yisrael burning. And Hashem said, Shalni alecha ma'araglecha, ki amokim asher ta'omed alav atmas koydeshu. When you're standing in the presence of a person in pain, take your shoes off your feet, because you're standing on Admas Kodesh, sacred soil. You and I know very well that somebody who has been tested in life operates on a different state, a different pchina, a different madrega. They don't look at life, death, love, marriage, family, children, Yiddishkeit, Hashem, Shabbos, Yom Tov, breathing, even going to the bathroom, the same. Everything is different. Admas Kodesh. Take your shoes off your feet. Don't become an expert. Don't become a philosopher. Let me tell you something. I was once in a community, and there were two rabbis. One should have been a Yutzlachnik. The way he was dressed, you'll forgive me, the way he spoke, the way he looked. The other guy was mamish, azoy mit shmoinot godim, perfect, groomed, amachayim, eloquent. But one of them was tremendously matzlich, the other one was... So somebody in the kehillah asked me, he says, Ma'ishna, is that a mas b'de'inyan? I said, it's partial, I'll tell you the difference. I'll tell you the difference. I said, you know, I fly a lot. LaGuardia is my second home. Unfortunately, it's not a comfortable home. Apparently, I have a lot of nitzutzas to be mevanin in the airports. And the other day, I had a kasha. I was walking up to a Delta plane, walking up the steps. And I always like to look into the cockpit. A plane needs a mashgiach, harav hamachsh. I like to see what's going on in the cockpit. What are they reading before the airplane? What type of l'chaim? What type of hors d'oeuvres? What type of jalapeno herring? Maybe we can have a shalashudas together. I like to take a look in the cockpit. And then, in my mind, I was nisayna with a kushya atzuma. A kushya atzuma. Mamish a kushya the b'chin of a shagasayir of a kiveh. What was my kasha? Imagine somebody in your family needs medical help. In the heart, chalila, the machala. You don't open up the telephone book. Cardiologist, Mr. Goldberg, you schedule a surgery. The first thing is you call Frumi Horowitz. Das ist der erste Sache. And you want to know who's the best physician, not in America, in the world, for this illness. Then you want to know another 10 people who were treated. And you call each one of them. And you do Sheva B'dikis and Sheva Chkidis more than by a Shidduch. And after 3 months of investigation and research, and you call Frumi back 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 7 in the morning, in case you get some sleep between our lois and nets. After you sheva b'dikus and sheva chkiris, you schedule a surgery by this doctor. Why? You don't want any doctor. You want la creme de la creme. Yiddish should be Yiddish. Because you don't put a loved one under the knife. Who just graduated yesterday from a Gleisman. So I asked myself a shayla. I'm going on to a Delta airplane. The man is going to take off, flying to the Chayk Sakanas Nefashis. I know a lot of paranoid Jews. You know that? I know a Jew, he once told me, Rabbi Jacobson, just because I'm paranoid, it doesn't mean the whole world is not after me. I know a lot of people like that. I never met, even a hypochondriac Jew, I never met a Jew, before he goes on an airplane, he calls Delta, he says, Rabbi, flight 443, going from New York to London, I want to know the pilot, where he went for high school, Mesifta, where he got Smichid Ayonis, Zivug Rishon, Zivug Sheni, Zivug Shlishi, his Shvigen, I want to know his Shvigen's Mechuten, I want to know where he davens, I want to speak to his Rav, I want to know where he graduated, how many flights he did, how many times he landed, how many aliyahs, how many iridas, what he takes when he's depressed, what he does on weekends, what he drinks on his hammock. Important information. A doctor, yeah. On the airplane, not. Why not? The doctor you don't trust. The pilot, megait. And then I realize, Hashay l'toiv, v'hatir it's pashut. The teretz is the doctor takes a knife and he starts the surgery. He even comes to the Suda Saidan, he gets a reward. You know those Suda Saidans. And if the doctor is not matzliach and they have to call Rachman Litzlan the Chevra Kadisha, the doctor comes out and he says, I'm so sorry. And he goes home and he sits down and he watches TV or he drinks his latte that he got in Starbucks for $9.50 and he reads the magazine and he goes back to work the next day. The pilot, if he doesn't know what he's doing, I'm not the only one going down with him. If I'm going down, he's going down with me. Such people I trust. I don't have to do any investigation. Such people I trust. So I said, that's the difference between the two rabbis. One is a doctor, and one is a pilot. Bein-Ish and Bein-Achiv are not doctors. They're pilots. Mrs. Horowitz and her dedicated staff, she's not a doctor. She knows more than doctors. That's besides the point. They're pilots. Pilots are not doctors. They go up with you, and they go down with you. I once introduced a doctor to a dinner. He was taka a good doctor. He was a good doctor. He weist the Meister with the Maharash. You know the Meister? The Rebbe Maharash once said, there was a Yid, Reb Elia Abel, a Yid with a lange word, and he was a doctor. So he said, ich halt nicht von Doktoren, weil sie kam, wo sie wissen, krank. They don't know anything. Aber for Reb Elia halt ich. Why? He says, when a patient comes to him, and he says, I'm sick, what should I do? He says, Reb Elia weist the emes as a weis garnish, not like other doctors. But he can't tell everybody that he knows nothing, because then he wouldn't be a doctor. So what does he do? He starts, heeft the kem in the bar, that's right. He says, is a shemamshich yid gimel mit the sarachem. A shemamshich yid gimel mit the sarachem. Kitan eitz, it works. For them halter. I once had to bring up a doctor, and I had to say something. So I said like this, I said, you'll forgive me, the doctor, the Gemara says in Kiddushin, Toiv sheberoifim legehenim. Or the organizers wanted to give me skilla, slave for Henek. This was their honoree. 200 people came for him, right? And I said, Toiv sheberoifim legehenim, he belongs in hell. I remember the guy was like, he looked at me, he couldn't understand. I don't understand you. It was like Rabbi Jacobson, it was like I'm paying you, I don't understand. What are you doing? So the organizers stressed out, wait, why Toiv sheberoifim legehenim? Why the best of doctors in Gehenna? I said, I'll tell you why. Why? The Gemara says if you have a bad marriage, you don't go to Gehenna. You know the Gemara. Why not? You already were there. You're there, you have a bad marriage. Toiv sheberoifim legehenna. A good doctor, a best doctor is in Gehenna. Not there, here. If he's a really good doctor, he experiences his patients. So I said, here we have a Tov Sheberoifen. He's already in Gehenna in this world. There's two types of doctors. There's two types of organizations. There's two types of people. Generally, it's a doctor and a pilot. The uniqueness of Bein-Ish and Bein-Achiv is they're not doctors. They're pilots. They go up with the people and they go through with it. I don't want to say down, but they go through with the people. In the morning and in the evening and the afternoon. People from the outside don't always understand. Because if somebody wasn't there, they just wasn't there. Not everybody has the wisdom to take their shoes off their feet and understand that it's Admas Kodesh. But some people do. And those who do stand astounded before the work of this Mama, I call her the Mama of Klal Yisrael, who's there through thick and thin like a pilot, with patience, with people. Erev Yom Kippur, I don't have what to do. People are busy. I don't know why people are busy Erev Yom Kippur. They just eat all day. But they're stressed. People are stressed Erev Yom Kippur, right? Because Yom Adin, they're stressed. So they eat kneidlach and they stress out. So it was like, I don't know, a half an hour before Kol Nidre, and I was bored. Why? Because some people, whatever, took tshuva and this. But I already did tshuva in the morning. I was good. And I remember the Maisa with the Litvak, you know the Maisa, yeah? With the Litvak, he was going to Shul Yom Kippur. And he was depressed. So a Chiddush Shehid, a Psalet, sees him. Says, why are you so depressed? He says, Yom Kippur, Yom Adin. He says, how good a Tag Yom Kippur is. How good a Tag, Gilu Yechidish of a Nefesh. What's that still? He says, I'll tell you why I'm really depressed. I checked my iPhone. I didn't do one Aveda this year. A whole video is going to be a bracha levatala. I didn't do one Aveda this year. The whole Yom Kippur is worthless. The Let's tells him, there's a half an hour left to Yom Kippur. What's the big deal? He says, what can you do in a half an hour? What can you do in a half an hour? He says, you're shachin, your neighbor. You love him or you hate him? He says, of course I hate him. He says, why don't you go beat him up? Where do you have a better Aveda than beating up a Jew right before Yom Kippur? Beat him up. And then you'll have a whole Yom Kippur to be Zech Mitzvah. That's a gewaldige in you. You'll ask him, it's a brilliant idea. He goes to his house, knocks on the door, the guy opens the door. Tarach, boom, boom. He kicks him, he shoves him, he punches him, he slaps him, he gives him Malkus Arboyim, Makas Mardas, Sreifa, Herek, Chemek, howling Yomim. Brother, he kicks him 20 minutes l'shein, Yichud, Kudshe, Brichush, I should be able to have a chalois, not only have a chatzi shir aveda, but a molish shir, so I let a berchmus, I let a shnukker, shall be an aveda gmurim, in a teure, I should be able to be zich misvadik, a chol ha-kosim, b'shulchanot. He finishes, the Jew is black and blue, he's beaten, he's verhackt, zerschmettert, verblonget, verwundet, and this Yid walks out, molei simcha. He's walking to shul. Mechaya, jetzt wird seine Yom Kippur. The wife of the beaten Jew comes running out. And she screams, she says, Rabbi Yid, ich weiß nicht, wer du bist. Aber eine Sache will dir sagen, du wirst keinmal nicht wissen, was am Mitzvah. Du wirst erst abgetan. You'll never know what type of person. It was a few minutes before Yom Kippur. I didn't know what to do. Ich habe schon miswadig, wenn nicht miswadig, whatever. So I have my own cheshbonis with God. So I call up Frumi Horowitz. And they say, you know, it's a few minutes before Yom Kippur. I want to ask you, send me over 4 names, 4 self numbers of people who could use a nice, encouraging word before Yom Kippur. I want to call them. Within 9 seconds, I had all 4 cell numbers. And I called each one of them, and I spoke. Till Yom Kippur, I spoke to them. And then I thought to myself, most women in the world, 20 minutes before Yom Kippur, me loif, me kip, me est, me gate, you're taking this pill, that pill, you're eating, you're not eating. Another cup of water, and it's going to be a big fast. Another cup of water. She immediately answered the phone. I asked for names. She said, I can give you a few hundred below. I said, give me 4 that could use me the best. Within 9 seconds, the list was there. I called them, and I thought to myself, wow, that's not a doctor. A doctor has vacation sometimes. It's Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day weekend, right? There were three Reform rabbis. They were arguing who's the most modern shul. So one said, we're the most modern shul. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we have sandwiches. Everybody comes in Yom Kippur, they get a sandwich, or they get hungry, they eat. The other one says, no, we're the most modern shul. We have a laptop near every seat. You get bored, you surf the web, middle of davening. The third rabbi says, nah, we're the most modern, progressive shul. We put up a sign, closed for the high holidays. That's it. Every doctor has vacation. It's not a doctor. This is a pilot. This is a pilot. Lechreid. Baliyasai hu oila. Biyiridasai hu yoidit. To empathize. To be there. To experience. This is a special day here. Not only helping the work of Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv, but really being hosted by my dear friend, Yossi Zalhaben Arafur Shleimo Kraiva. And if you know that this is a pchin of Invei Hagefen, Invei Hagefen, it's a pchin of Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv, because his work is never of a doctor. His work, La'arichas Semim V'Shanim Tovos, is one of a pilot. And when I met him the first time by the Shabbos of Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv, I saw that Frumi is a mother of Klal Yisrael, and he is a father of so many, a brother to so many, a heart to contain so much pain of so many people. And I'm honored and privileged to be here with all of you, and I want to bless Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv, and especially thank Reb Chaim Fisher for his extraordinary work on behalf of Bein-Ish Bein-Achiv, already way back, b'toich kol ha-mishtatzvim, and say together, Chazak, Chazak, v'nis Chazek. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.